Hey guys, welcome back. So today we need to discuss some very important things. We need to discuss the weapon screen, so that way you guys know what you're looking at when you look at that. We need to discuss your stats, and we need to discuss a feature that is in Dark Souls games and is very prevalent, but it's not in the Bloodborne games. So with that in mind, I know you guys are already familiar with a lot of this because of the Bloodborne games, but I'm going to review real quick as if you haven't played Bloodborne games, because in odds I know it's been a couple of years, so I'm going to just assume that everybody's forgotten everything. I know it comes back quickly, but still going to do my best to quickly cover a whole mess of information all at once. So welcome to math class, because 90% of this video is going to be me talking at you with numbers on the screen, because woo, details. Luckily, after this video, it's all back to action, but for this one in particular, it's getting down to the nitty gritty. So let's go ahead and start with the weapon screen. We go to our equipment, and we look at our weapon. Weapon screens are pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot to explain here. The biggest thing you really need to know, because there's a lot of this is self-explanatory. Like weight, it's self-explanatory. Durability, self-explanatory. Because all weapons can be two-handed, all weapons have a guard absorption ratio. So when you look at guard absorption and you see the numbers underneath it, that is the percentage of that type of damage that will be blocked if you guard with said weapon. So if I was to two-hand this axe right now and block with it, it would block 45% of the physical damage dealt to me. So obviously it's not a great shield, but the actual shield we have isn't much better in that same regard. So it's still that aspect, though, of that's what that is. That is what guard absorption is, but it's one of those things that I wanted to bring up because you don't run into guard absorption in Bloodborne. The other thing I want to point out is that, so with each weapon, if we start in the upper left-hand corner here, it says hand axe, axe, standard, which is literally just the name of the weapon, the type of weapon, and the type of damage it's doing. It's followed by war cry and FP cost. So every single weapon also has a special ability that if you hit L2 will use. So for this one it says war cry, FP cost 20. If I am two-handing the weapon, I don't think I have to be two-handing for it. No, I think for this one I actually do. I hit L2, I cast war cry, and you'll see a little symbol pop up in the upper left-hand corner that is, I want to say, increased damage. I don't quite remember what war cry does, but that's what it is. Every single weapon has its own little special move that you can do with it, and that's what that is. Anyways, we go down to attack power now. Talked about guard absorption, talked about the special moves. Like I said, every weapon has its own special moves. Some of them are really useful, some of them are pointless. Whatever. Attack power is still pretty straightforward. The attack for this weapon is 121, right? It says 110 plus 11. The 110 is the base damage of the weapon, and the plus 11 is the damage additional based upon our stats. Okay, and we'll come back to that in just a second. Critical, I'll be honest, I don't even know how that works, but I don't play any crit builds, so if you wanted to know more, you have to look that one up. Additional effects from left to right are bleed, poison, and frost. Bleed is just like frenzy in Bloodborne in that it's a status effect that you build up, and once you fill the meter, it does a shitload of damage all at once. And frost actually acts in a very, very similar way. It's just building up with ice instead of bleed, which it's literally just a different color bar, in all honesty. So, you know. Anyways, attribute bonuses. This is the part I wanted to cover. So attribute bonuses, just like in so something that we had in Bloodborne as well. The number of the ranking determines how much of a bonus you get from that skill stat. So in this case, the hand axe has a D in strength and dex, because from left to right it is strength, dex, intelligence, faith. This means that whatever points I have in dex and strength, I'm getting a D rank bonus from. If it was an A rank bonus, I'd be getting a bigger bonus from having the same amount of stats. And if I had more in those stats, it would still give more. But the way it does the ratios is kind of weird, because what you'll find as you go through the game is that just because something has better letter ranking doesn't mean it actually gives you better bonuses. I just want to point that out. There are a number of weapons where it's like, oh, this is an S rank versus your last weapon was an A rank bonus, but the A rank bonus was better. It's unfortunate that they messed up on this, but it is something worth pointing out, that when you're looking at your actual bonuses from these weapons, make sure you're looking at your additional, like the plus 11 in this case, rather than just what the letter grade is, because there's a number of weapons where it's messed up like that. But for the most part, it's not going to be too big of an issue, because everything we're going to be shooting for with this run, for this character, for me, is going to be strength build. Is going to be just pretty much pure strength bonus. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to cover for the weapons, because like I said, most of this is pretty self-explanatory, but it's still just wanted to cover that real quick. And if you guys remember Bloodborne well enough, you don't even really need me to cover that. So that is the weapon screen. Ta-da! Wow, one part done. Alright, next part that is not so much fun, which we're actually going to go right back to the equipment screen, is in the upper left-hand corner. Oh, I'm sorry, upper right-hand corner. Weight ratio. So weight ratio is the weight of your armor determines what your weight ratio is, because if you are looking at your stats, which we'll come back around to in a minute, your stats shows you how much weight you can carry. Oh, I'm sorry, it shows on the screen too. Bottom right-hand corner, it says equip load. We're at 15.3 pounds out of 52 total. And that means we're currently equip loaded within the upper right hand corner where it says weight ratio 29.4%. Now the reason the percentage matters is because there are 3 types of dodge rolls. You have a light, a medium, and a heavy. And depending on how much gear you have on, and depending on what your percentage of your weight ratio is, determines which one you do. I want to say it's literally 25% or 30% for the light roll, and then it's 30 to 70 for the medium, and over 70 is the heavy roll. Heavy roll, if you get into that territory, don't even bother dodging, because your roll is so slow and so short, it makes literally no difference. Light roll, it's great if you're a spellcaster, because you're doing those big, massive, like, leapy rolls to get way the heck out of the way. But for the most part, the medium roll is more than sufficient, and that's what you really want to aim for. We haven't gotten ourselves any more armor right now to actually test it out and play with it, but the medium roll is what we're going to be shooting for. We're going to be shooting to not exceed our 70% weight ratio limit, and to try and stay within that bounds. The other thing I want to point out while we're sitting here is when you're looking at, I want to say, yeah, it's this screen. With the absorptions ratios, again, it's how much is blocked, and like your armor ratios. As you saw, even the weapons have absorption ratios, and you notice that there's 3 weapon slots for right-handed and left-handed. If you can put something in every slot, because without going over your weight ratio, mind you, because you don't want to put yourself in the heavy roll if you're not going for that, because every single slotted item adds to your defense. I know it's minimal because they're weapons, but it's one of those things that it does actually help, versus, so it's more beneficial to have something there than not. But usually the weapon defense differential is negligible, so I mean, wouldn't sweat it either way. And then last but not least, we're going to cover stats. Again, I'm trying to go as quickly as possible here, because I know a lot of this is self-explanatory and a lot of this is, already been covered. But basically, we're going to jump straight to the middle column here. And we're going to go straight down from base power. HP is HP. That's pretty straightforward. FP is mana, health. Again, pretty straightforward. Stamina, stamina. Equip load, we just covered. Poise, I don't remember how to read it with this exact number that is showing and whatnot, because I've never really played too heavily into it. But poise is the stat that increases the higher your gear and the heavier your gear, and it's basically your knockback number. If 2 enemies with giant swords swing at each other, whoever has the higher poise is going to knock back the person with lower poise. That's all poise is. So if you're going against somebody that has crazy heavy armor and a giant heavy weapon, which in strength builds you run into quite a lot, they're gonna knock you on your ass if you're wearing the same stuff we're wearing now, because our poise is really low. The reason I'm bringing this up is because when we get later into the game and I'm wearing some super heavy armor and have really high poise, I'm going to be winning fights with tough enemies by putting them on their ass. And that's not necessarily something you can do with every character. So with that in mind, some late game strategies for attacking an enemy might start to become negligible if you're not doing a similar build. With that in mind, by late game, you should be able to suss out your own differentials and strategies. So, like, if you decide to follow this guide, but you're running a sorcerer, obviously you're not running around literally, smacking everything in the face like I am. But it's one of those things that's just little differential aspects. And then we're just going to cover attributes real quick. The rest of this, again, is pretty self-explanatory. The only thing I want to do touch upon very quickly, bottom right hand corner, curse is an instant kill. Bleed builds up massive amounts of damage. Poison builds up and then it slowly ticks away while slowly ticking away your health. Frost builds up and then does a massive chunk of damage. Curse builds up, instant kills when the bar is full. That is not a stat that you do damage wise, but there are certain enemies in the game that deal curse to you. So if you see that little symbol, keep that in mind. But I'll be honest, you won't see it until like 2/3 of the way through the game, so you're going to forget by then anyways. Woo! But I'm sure the death will remind you real quick. Anyways, attributes, bottom left hand corner. Vigor is your health bar. You increase your vigor, you increase your health bar. Pretty self-explanatory. Attunement is the number of spell slots you have. And the reason this is important is because unlike previous Souls games where sorcery could be set in a situation where it's like you equip this spell, but you can only use the spell a certain number of times. In Dark Souls 3, it goes off your FP. As long as you have FP, you can keep using it. But certain spells can only be equipped with enough attunement, and what I mean by that is that some spells require multiple slots if they're strong enough to equip. So that's something to keep in mind. If you want to do the sorcerer build, you need to build up your attunement because you only start off with one attunement slot or one spell slot. So big important thing there. Endurance is your stamina. Again, pretty straightforward. And then real quick, just because I pulled them up. So for your vigor, your health, it's a soft cap of 50, hard cap 99. Unfortunately with vigor though, you don't really need to go past 50 because even though the hard cap's 99, it's so low returns after 50. I would just stop there. Attunement I don't have a number for. I think it's just the same no matter what, but after a certain point you're not going to be using that many spells anyways. Endurance, hard cap of 40. You can go to 99, but it's literally 10 extra stamina between 40 and 99. So I would not go that far with it. Vitality. Vitality is literally your equipment load. And I want to bring this up because 40 Vitality is the soft cap per se. And when we say that 40 Vitality is a soft cap, what we're referring to is you get 1 pound of equipment load per point in Vitality. But after 40, that's all you get. Before 40, for every point you put in Vitality, you get a base defense buff. So if you're trying to make your character more tanky, you can extend your health bar, but putting points of Vitality will also help you in this regard. So 40 Vitality is where you stop getting the additional defense, and then after that, it's still 1 point of equipment load per level. Strength is pretty straightforward. Dex is pretty straightforward. For both of them, it's a 40 soft cap, 60 hard cap. Again, pretty straightforward. Diminishing returns from after a soft and a hard cap. For our intents and purposes, we're probably just going to be going like straight to 60 strength. Because we're doing a strength build for this character, I'll be working on vigor, endurance, vitality, and strength, because after those 4, I won't really need to touch anything else. And with that in mind, we're probably going to build up our strength really quickly, because that's going to be like our main stat that we're focusing on. Um, Intelligence is faith is a little bit confusing, and the only reason why I want to point these two out real quick is because unlike Bloodborne, which you just focus on arcane to do all your spells, intelligence and faith is the split up here. Intelligence covers your pyromancies and your actual spells, whereas faith covers miracles. And the best way I can think to describe it, aside from that, is that if your spell that you're looking at heals or is lightning based, it's in faith. If it does anything else, it's in intelligence. So if you're doing a sorcerer build, usually it's recommended to go after intelligence with faith as a secondary, so you have more options spell wise, because those lightning spells do help out with certain bosses. But at the end of the day, a sorcerer is going to be focusing mostly on intelligence rather than faith, versus there are miracle worker builds where you go entirely off of faith. And then the last stat is luck. Luck is a stat that is very, very polarizing. Oh, I'm sorry, intelligence and faith are also 40-60 caps, and luck is also 40-60 caps. So it's literally vigor at 50, endurance and vitality at 40, and then everything else is a 40-60. So at least they made it easy to remember this time. But luck is a very polarizing stat because it can be used to do crit builds. But as I mentioned before when we were covering the weapons, I've never done a crit build, so it's not something I focus on or like to point out or have even messed with. So for me personally, unless I have all my other stats like 99, I'm not going to touch the luck because I've never messed with it and I don't quite fully understand how it works. I know that it affects your chances of getting a crit and how much that crit does, and I also know that it affects your item discovery. But other than that, both of these are things that I'm not really terribly concerned about for your typical build. And yeah, that's everything I want to cover statistically. So congratulations for sitting through all that boring bullshit. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. I will gladly answer any questions. If I did too poor of a job explaining, I'm sorry. Like I said, a lot of this is pretty much just covering over from Bloodborne again. So hopefully you're pretty much set with that. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and travel to High Wall Lothric. And next time we come back, we'll be starting off in the first zone. With that being said, have fun. See you next time.